You are listening to the On Purpose Podcast. Welcome, everybody, to this week's edition of the On Purpose Podcast. You know the deal. We love having you here, and we love serving you. This week, I have on an old school martial artist who actually did the Gracie Challenge way back in the early 90s. And if you don't know what that is, that's when the Gracies first immigrated here from Brazil. And they had an open challenge to all martial artists that their jiu-jitsu could beat whatever martial arts you had. You literally just came by their garage and told them you wanted to challenge them. And this week's guest was one of those guys. But before I tell you his story, I got to remind you, your bill's due. It's time to like, subscribe, and share the On Purpose Podcast on all the platforms you listen to help us continue to grow so we can serve more people in the world, so we can reach more people. I don't know if you realize this, but podcasts have algorithms just like your social media. If you ever get on your social media, like, man, I don't see so-and-so's post anymore. Like, it just doesn't show up. There's math behind it, right? And there's algorithms. Podcasts are the same. The more podcasts are shared, the more people like them, the more people review them, the more people get to see them because they push us up the list. So do your part and help a boy out. You know, it's been over 4 years now. We've been showing up every Thursday with you, and we love having you, but I got to have you do your part and like, share, subscribe. And if you're like, man, I'm going to give up one latte a month, then join me on patreon.com where that subscription gets you early release of episodes. I had to think what I was going to say there. It gets you a day. You get the releases on Wednesday instead of Thursday. You get behind the scenes stuff. Sometimes I even do sing-alongs I'll send you. They're very good, by the way. And you get the satisfaction of knowing that $10, that $5, or that $2 just went to putting a smile on somebody's face somewhere around the world because you contributed to making our content possible. So get over, pay your bill, help the podcast out. And now let's get to this week's interview with my newest friend, Ed Ng, who is the author of the Accidental Mayor book, shares a powerful story of immigrating to the United States from Hong Kong and how his car randomly breaking down led to his political career. And he's got so much more. It's a fun interview. I hope you enjoy the interview with Dr. Ed Ng. Ed, my friend, welcome to the On Purpose Podcast. It is a pleasure to have you here and to share your story with our community.
So glad to be here, Jerrod. Really appreciate you inviting me to be on your podcast.
Now, anybody that sends me a video of them sparring needs to come on the show. That's part of it. Part of your qualification. You sent me a video of sparring. I was like, oh, for sure, got to share this story.
Oh, thanks, man. Hey, I still spar. I'm at a more mature age now, but you and I both share the love of martial arts, and you know as well as I do. Once you spar once, that dopamine, that adrenaline, it just keeps you going. Not just in martial arts, but in life.
It does. Yeah, you're right. And life in general keeps you young, and you're young at heart, man. And I love it. And that's why I was excited when you wanted to come on the show, and I started researching it. But I was like, oh, this is going to be a fun episode.
Oh, it's great. Thanks for having me again. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, Ed, briefly give a little bio to our community so they get an idea of who you are before we dive into things.
Okay, my bio is pretty simple. I'm trained as an engineer for a big utility company. But as I started working as an engineer, I felt something tugging at me. I think my head was full, but my heart was kind of empty. I just feel like engineering was not for me. But instead of quitting and looking for my passion and finding out what my passion was, I actually got an advanced degree in engineering, thinking that would help me fall in love with engineering. Well, it got worse. I realized I hated engineering after that. So I got my MBA and became a publishing executive. Actually, I was a regional president of the LA Times. And that was the best job I ever had. But it's almost like in martial arts, when you become complacent, when you start thinking something's your dream job, you kind of lose the edge of what got you there in the first place. So I started, rather than really continued to innovate. I started protecting my job. And ultimately, when LA Times got bought out, I lost my job. I was the odd person out. And when you lose your job that you love so much, you kind of lose your identity as well. So I didn't know what to do with myself. So I became a professor part-time. And then I went back into engineering, went back into government, but more from a business standpoint, and became a consultant. And then ultimately became a mayor of a city. And if you would have told me that 50 years ago, an immigrant boy, a sickly immigrant boy that grew up in Chinatown amidst the gang warfare, would run a city in America, I would say you're dreaming. You know, dreams and hopes are not for people like me, immigrants, sick immigrants like me, who had no choice, no dreams, no alternatives, but became a mayor of a city. Then I said, you know what, I got to constantly challenge myself. What do I want to do? And I wanted to move into more the creative side. So I said, I'll write a book. And it took me 3 years, but I launched my first book and became a bestseller.
Nice. I love it.
That's kind of a long-winded bio,
No,
but I
it's
thought
perfect.
I want to provide that context.
You're so humble. I love it. And that's one of the things I will tell you that I appreciate for lifelong martial artists is that humility, right? We're always learning and we're always grateful for the energy around us. So you're very humble in your bio, and I love it that you accidentally became a mayor. That's amazing.
Yeah, people say, how are you able to do so much based on the environment that you grew up in? And always tell people this. If you grew up in middle-class America, you probably have 1,000 opportunities presented to you. But most people, because they're so comfortable, they pursue maybe 5 of them, 4 of them. Well, I grew up in Chinatown, where the opportunities were kind of limited. And I think if I were to go back, I probably had about 6 or 7 opportunities presented to me. But when you grew up hungry, when you grew up poor, I took advantage of all 6. So, and just like in martial arts, right? Especially in jiu-jitsu. Every day you go in, you get humble. You think you're pretty good. I was a purple belt, so I thought I was really good, but you get humble every day, and it's a process of growing and learning.
Yeah, for sure. All right, before we get too far into the mayor and the book and your childhood, I got to make sure you're warmed up, just like jiu-jitsu. I don't just put you in there and start live rolling. Got to do a warm up and stuff. You ready for this warm up, my friend?
Yes, I'm ready.
All right, here we go. You are stranded on a deserted island for the rest of your life. You get one food only. What are you going to be eating?
I will be eating sushi.
What kind of roll, or what in particular?
Tuna sushi is my favorite food.
Spicy or no?
Spicy, yes. I grew up with spicy food. I grew up eating fish, not high quality fish, but I have an acquired taste for fish, and sushi was always something I enjoyed in college. I would get my financial aid money, and I would spend it on sushi.
I love it. All right, Ed, you get one superpower. What's your superpower going to be, and what do you want to do with it?
My superpower would actually be, I would say I would be able, it's almost like I want to be like Batman, the superpower that he has. You don't have these, unimaginable power where you can, melt people and you become invisible. But Batman, I think, has a mindset of saving the world, that he is Cape Crusader, and that he stood for something. When everybody else kind of, I think in a couple of the movies, he was misunderstood.
Sure.
But ultimately, he had an identity, and he didn't let people deter who he was, and he became a Cape Crusader. So I would say that his mindset and his physical power.
I love it. Love it. All right, your favorite book?
It's got to be The Tipping Point by Malcolm Gladwell. I think that's the first time. I think he's the one that inspired and put the seed in my mind to write a book. This guy, he's a storyteller. He's not a researcher. He's great in research, but he uses other people's research and told the high points of the research through his stories. And it's just so relatable. And the way he tells stories, I think it transcends into the business world. and the psychology world. Just an amazing storyteller.
Yeah, for sure. All right, you get to have dinner with one person. They can either have passed on or still with us. Who are you having dinner with, and what do you want to ask them?
It's got to be Bruce Lee, man. I mean, he's my idol growing up, and I would ask him, "How did you do it?" I mean, you were, you were dismissed by Hollywood. People say you were too short. They say you were too short. You have an accent, and yet you persisted. I want to ask him, how did you do it? I just want to learn about the grit, learn about his philosophies, all the book. I want to deep dive into all his the Jeet Kune Do and everything. He is
Yeah,
one person I would pay anything to have dinner with and pick his brain.
that's a great choice right there, Brucey. What do you think, Ed? What do you think he would think of the current state of mixed martial arts?
I think he would have said, "I told you so."
Yeah,
I think I'm a big jujitsu guy. I'm a big fan of the Gracies. I worship the family just because of what they stood for, coming over from Brazil. Horian with nothing in his, with no name to his in America. No one knew who he was, and you know what? Open challenge to
yeah.
anyone who wants to fight him. And that's how I met him. I challenged him.
Did you really?
So yeah, I fought with Hoist.
Okay, you went over to their garage and fought?
Yeah, I went to the garage and met Horian, and I said, "Yeah, I'm a black belt in Taekwondo, and I think I'm pretty good." And he looked at me and said, "Okay, you fight Hoist. How you want to go 10%, 50%, 100%? Just remember, if you go 50%, we hit you back 50% just as hard. You want to go 10%? We'll hit you back just as hard, 10%. It's up to you." So I said, "Let's go 30% to start." And didn't know anything about grappling, Jerrod. I threw my first roundhouse kick, and I was on the ground, and I was getting choked out, armbar, and I became a student. So yeah. But back to Bruce Lee, I think he would say, "I don't think any one art is better than the other. You have to look at your body type. You would have to look at what your body mechanics and adopt what works for you. And what works for someone will not work for you, but you really need to know your body and know your mind and know your limitations and don't limit yourself to just one art." I think that's what he would say. And that's the whole premise and the whole tenet of Jeet Kune Do.
Yeah. Well, and remember, he was ostracized by a lot of people for wanting to blend the arts. Everybody was wanting to stay pure in your only art. And, a lot of people weren't happy with him trying to combine things, the boxing with the Jeet Kune Do.
Yeah, to me, I think that was actually the true essence of MMA way back then. When he talked about Jeet Kune Do, don't have any form, take what works and learn from other arts and teach it to share it with the world. And he was ostracized not only for that, but for sharing it with non-Chinese. And I just admired what he stood for. So
Yeah.
yeah, that was an easy choice for me. That and the book was just an easy choice.
Oh, I love that when you come in prepared for easy choices. Well, I hope you're warmed up. I'm excited to dive into your story, Ed.
I'm definitely warm. I stretch and everything now.
We're all stretched out. All right. So as I was preparing for this and doing my research for you, there was a quote, part of your book title on your website that talked about when your family came here from Hong Kong in the 60s, that you wondered why we chose America as our new home. Can you talk to me about what that was like? Like, how old were you and what was that like? And what made you think, like, why are we even here in America?
Yeah, so I was born in Hong Kong, and in Hong Kong, there is something called a gold mountain that's in America, and everyone wanted to go to America. And this gold mountain is supposed to be have the best people, the smartest people, the biggest companies, the most wealth. And in my simple mind, me and all my friends, we really thought that there was a gold mountain, and that the gold mountain is full of gold bars, and that the way people sensationalize it, that you can actually go there and just pick up bars and you'd be rich forever. So I was so excited coming to America, and when we first landed here in America, I mean, the place was huge. First time in my life that all my siblings and my parents we have our own bathroom. We didn't have to go. We live in a dormitory in Hong Kong, and it's a
Okay.
communal bathroom shared by 500 to 700 people. And it's just a mess, and it wasn't very convenient. And we have our own bathroom, and I said, God, this is a gold mountain. But very shortly after that, I went to school and I started getting bullied quite a bit because I couldn't speak the language. And I was told that the best way to speak the language was to mimic people's mouth. But when I did that, kids thought I was making fun of them, and they started beating me up. And I was just a punching bag for people. I was good in basketball. I was a decent athlete, I found out. But when I started cheering after I get around people, made a jump shot, they would just throw me on the ground and mounted me, and they just started punching on me. And those that didn't have time to beat me up would meet me after school. And I said, boy, in Hong Kong, we didn't have much, but at least we had family, and I have family and friends. But here, both my parents started working menial jobs to put food on the table. They didn't have a voice because they didn't speak the language. And I said, boy, why did we come here? At least I was happy and protected in Hong Kong. Here, I was not protected. I was getting beat up, and I couldn't even speak the language. And I said, why are we here? This is ridiculous. This is not the gold mountain. There's no gold mountain with gold bars where I can access it easily. No, this is Chinatown is a rough neighborhood. To me, it was a prison. It felt like a prison to me. And so that's the context for the quote you mentioned.
Yeah. So talk to me. So what kind of jobs did your parents leave in Hong Kong to come to the United States for? What were they doing there compared to what they ended up doing here to start out?
So my dad was a lieutenant in Hong Kong. Now, he didn't make a whole lot of money, but we got free housing in a police dormitory.
Yep.
It was a 400 square foot home. 10 of us lived there, so we were pretty much on top of each other. My mom was a stay-at-home mom, but my dad realized early on that in Hong Kong there was a upper class and the social hierarchies. You're the rich or you're poor. There's no middle class.
Right.
And if we had stayed in Hong Kong, we would either become a policeman, a cop, or we become a taxi driver. Those were the most popular options. So I think he told me he had enough money for 7 tickets, and he borrowed money to buy the last 2 tickets. So we came here. Okay. And immediately when we landed the next day, he went out looking for a job, and he became from a lieutenant in Hong Kong. He became a custodian and a dishwasher to put food on the table. And my mom became a self-taught seamstress. And I will never forget this, how much she got paid. She told me she got 35 cents for sewing the seams on a pair of pants, and another 15 cents if you add a zipper. And she would take work home to do that late into the night and then get up early into the morning again. And I just felt like so bad for them.
Wow. What'd you learn from seeing your parents sacrifice for that, like that?
I would say that the most important thing that you learn is don't take life for granted, number one. And number two, that is what I call grit. A lot of people talk about what grit is. If that's not grit, I don't know what is. And I would say that I really learned just from them. Never complain. And you get knocked down 5 times, you get up 6 times. But the most important thing is never give up an opportunity. And if there are two doors, look for the third door. And just never give up in life. And there are just so many stories in my book about the third door, how I got my first couple of jobs, and they were door.
Yeah, share one of those with us. Share the first time you got a job. You're like, I can't believe this just happened.
Yeah, so my roommate's father was really rich, and he was a co-owner for an engineering company, and I just needed a summer job really bad because I had spent a lot of my financial aid money on parties and clothing. So I needed to find a job, and I found that out, and I said, hey, would you mind getting me a job interview? And since your dad works there, is it even possible? He said, well, just call the secretary, and I can't promise you a job, but at least she'll interview you, I think. So I called and pretended I knew my roommate's dad really well, and I got the interview. And during the interview, I actually got the interview with the owner, with the majority owner, and I told him I went fishing with my roommate's dad, and I told a fishing story that happened. And right away, before I left, he said, "When can you start?" So, people say what I meant by the door is what? You send in your resume. You wait for people to call. If you don't call them, then you call them to ask if they receive your resume. But no, there's a third door to every situation in life. You just got to persist. You got to have grit. You got to persist and go for it and look for that third door.
I love it. Yeah, that's so funny. How did it turn out for you? How long did you stay there?
I stayed there for one summer. I started off. I didn't realize I thought it was an engineering job. It turned out it was a delivery job. They gave me a car and I just delivered engineering blueprints
Okay.
all around. And I wore a suit the first day. I borrowed that suit from my brother and a tie. And I remember the secretary told me, "Oh no, don't wear a suit. Wear a t-shirt and jeans. I don't know what you think this job is." So delivery boy. And I said, "Oh my crap!" So I said, "Okay, what do I need to do?" I started becoming friends with all the draftsmen and engineers, and I told them about my background: immigrant, engineering major, loved the martial arts, I loved Bushido, and found one guy that really liked the martial arts. We became friends. He said, "You know what? Come be my assistant." So I was actually a delivery boy for about two and a half weeks, and then got to working out of the office as in the drafts assistant engineer, basically draftsman, for the rest of the summer. So got to find the third door, right?
Yeah, it sounds like you found the third and the fourth door on that one.
Yeah, that's why a lot of people tell me, you know what, I don't have opportunities like your son did, uh, and I said, no, that's not it at all. I said, it's the how you persist and look for that third door, and not only that, but what you do with the opportunities in front of you.
Yeah, for sure. There's always opportunities around us if we're paying attention, right?
Always, be curious, be good with people, and always have a passion and a purpose. And then, the law of attraction will kick in and you will attract people who share your passion and want to help you.
Yeah, and what I love about that story is when you found out the job you got wasn't actually the job you wanted. You didn't quit and walk away angry. You just did it really well and continued to look for the job you wanted.
Yeah, that's really it. I think a lot of people, uh, I guess I read a lot of books. I'm an avid reader, for sure. And I read a lot about Gen Z, about uh, them looking for that perfect job. And I'm just saying, people who I mentor, I'm pretty direct about there are no perfect jobs out there. If you think there's a perfect job, you really will be disappointed in life.
Yeah, for sure. What something else that you said in it that I was reading about that I was really interested in was a philosophy of not chasing immediate answers to current problems because there's no clarity in looking forward, but rather by focusing on lessons, you find translucency in the reflection. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, so I think growing up with a mindset of trying to make everything perfect, trying to be rich, trying to be successful, I realized I brought a lot of that stress upon myself.
Mm.
And because I would always wonder every time there's a setback and a challenge that I had to overcome, I always ask myself, growing up, why? Why is this happening to me? And did that help? No, that just intensified the stress I was feeling. And I realized later on that the way life works is you're never going to have clarity looking for answers or justification on why life is happening to you. But yet, if you just look for lessons learned through those failures and just shorten that recovery period, or I call it the bounce back period, then later on down the road, it could be a year, 2 year, 3 years. You look back, that's when you kind of realize that the dots kind of connect, that the lessons learned here from this failure, wow, I was able to apply it here. But the big failure here, I was able to learn a bigger lesson that I can apply in a bigger way. And then eventually, looking back, God, all the dots just connect, and man, everything just kind of worked out. So rather than stressing over things, unfortunate things, life headwinds that are happening to you, learn the lessons, move forward, and then you will find clarity looking back. There's only clarity in rear view. I always tell people.
I love that. And I love what you said, though. When something happens, continue moving forward, right? We
Yeah.
just don't stop and stay where we are. Like a setback or a bad break, something unfortunate happening isn't the end of our journey.
No, we rewrite. Once you have a purpose, and I loved your podcast. I told you earlier, it's genius on purpose. I just love to play on words. But honestly, if you have that purpose, that really, once you have that purpose solidify and crystallize, the commitment and discipline automatically comes with it, that passion. And then when you hit a roadblock, that purpose, that's actually help you overcome it.
Yeah. So how does somebody find their purpose? And what would you say if somebody's like, gosh, I just can't find meaning, or what would you say they do first to start making it more clear?
Yeah, I would say I would get really, really practical in the purpose, how to find your purpose. What I do is I write down, I track for 30 days. They say it takes 40 days to change a habit, but I actually track it for 30 days because you're going to see patterns. I track down everything I do, and I have done this. I track down everything I do, not 24 hours, but I track all the major activities that I do, perform every day. And then I go back after 2-3 days. I look back, which ones bring me joy, which one brings me passion, which one that I lose time in, I lose myself in doing, and which ones I don't really like doing, which ones I dread doing, and which ones I really hate it. And then on a separate column, I will write down the emotions that those activities bring me. Is it passion? Is it joy? Is it happiness? Is it frustration? Is it sadness? Then I will try to look at four patterns and do more of what brings me joy, happiness, and passion, and do less of things that brings me frustration. Some things you just have to do, but you do less of it. And after a while, I saw a pattern of what that is, and I said, you know what, I want to do more of that. And after a while, I built my life around that purpose and the discipline to fulfill that purpose. And after a while, I became just a happier person, and I realized what made me happy. I knew my purpose, and the journey is worth it, man. After you have your purpose, the entire journey is just so fulfilling.
How did that lead you to being the accidental mayor?
Yeah, so I realized that growing up, my purpose, we didn't know what my purpose was until I think it was maybe 15 years ago, I started journaling, and I said, the process of finding my purpose. But through that journaling, I had a lot of time to reflect, and I realized that my purpose is really to help other people succeed, to give other people a voice, to help people find their purpose. That's what I kind of realized. And becoming a mayor was not one of those things that I actually aspired to. So it was a rainy day. In my book, I described it. It was a rainy day. My car broke down. I just drove I called my wife and said, I got to call AAA. I'm just going to find a first driveway available to me and park my car and wait for AAA. So I did that and saw a building in front of me. A lot of people were going in there, and it turned out to be the City Hall. And I lived there for 25 years, never stepped foot in City Hall. It turned out that they were looking for commissioners, new commissioners to serve in the city. And I have no idea what a commissioner does, but this is free coffee and free donut. And not one of the best of free coffee and free donuts. I went in there and ate donuts and coffee, and they asked me to speak about why I wanted to be a commissioner. And feeling obligated to say something, I told them why I wanted to be a commissioner. But it was about what's good about the city and what's bad about the city and what the city needs to work on. And after that 15-minute or 10-minute speech, they offered me a commissioner position, and make a long story short, I accepted it. And when there was an election, I jokingly said, I want to be a city council member. And they told me, my friend said, you could, but you're going to lose because there's a system in place that you have to go through to become a city council member.
Sure.
And just thinking about what my parents sacrificed, what they went through, and I said, what kind of system is this? You know what? This is democracy at its best. I found my gold mountain. And that did not include the inertia of having to kiss people's asses to become a council member. So I said, I'm going to run to break the system. So that's what drove me to run. And there was a lot of barriers that came my way, but ultimately I ran and won and came in first place. And so that's how I became a mayor of American City.
I gotta know, what did your wife say when you showed up after waiting for AAA? She thinks you're just waiting on your car to get towed, and you come back with donuts and coffee, and you're now a commissioner.
Well, I came back and said I was offered a commissionership, and she just laughed and said, "You know what a commissioner does, and how long is it going to take, and how much time is it going to eat up?" And I just told her, "I think it's only once a month, and since we have a young kid, boy at the time, we said it will be a good way to find out more programs that the city has to offer, and maybe we'll participate a lot more and be more involved." But she thought that's as far as it was going to go. There was no way I was going to run to be a city council and ultimately be a mayor of a city. That was never part of the conversation that day.
What's your favorite memory of that time as mayor? Like, when you think back on that period in your life, what's the favorite memory you bring with you?
I would say being a mayor, actually, you actually carry the city on your burden, the burden of how great your city is on
Sure.
your shoulders. To me, everybody looks at when things go well, they look at the mayor. When things go bad, they point the finger at the mayor too. So I would say the greatest memory is, God, I mean, when I was a mayor, I think I look back at the 2 years before I became a mayor, and I said the city had more innovation than at any time in the city of La Mirada. The city was safer than at any time before I became a city council member. And I felt like I had a direct input and impact on how great the city have become. And but the proudest thing I think I would say is, people always say, "What's your proudest memory?" Is it you're the first Asian American elected official in the city of La Mirada? And I said, that's probably number two. But I would say that my proudest moment is I've never become anybody else. I'm the same person before I became a mayor, as I've never changed. Just because I really know myself, I know my core values, I know my purpose, and I was not going to change myself for anybody. So that's, I would say, was my proudest moment, that people tell me you are the same person on and off the dais, and you talk the same, you act the same, you are actually the most authentic person I've ever met. So I would say that's probably the most memorable moments that what people have said to me, and what I would take away from being a mayor.
Yeah. What did you find that challenging? Because politics can change people for sure. Did you
Oh
find it?
yeah, sure. That's a great question. For sure, it was challenging. In fact, there are previous mayors who are no longer in office that literally even told me I talk too much. Just say yes, no, and move on. No one wants to hear your vision. No one wants to hear anything more than a minute. It's ridiculous. And I told them things that I can't repeat on this podcast. And even now, one former city council member tells me just told me recently I talk too much, and if he was there, he would have shamed me into take the mic from me. And I told him, "Have you done your research?" People said it was the best event they ever had, and of course, you know, I'm not gonna be too confrontational, but I just told them again things I can't repeat here
Right.
on this podcast. But to me, become a mayor I want to make government smaller. I want everyone to have access to government, not the people who feel like they're the only ones
Right.
that they're the privileged few. Anyone can call my cell phone and I will respond to everybody. So, anyways, yeah, that's you still get a lot of that.
Now, are your parents still alive? Were they able to see you achieve this?
No, my biggest disappointment I would say my mom passed away in 2013 after a sudden heart attack.
Okay.
And when I won in 2015, like most people do, they threw a party. I threw a special party with the headline, "No politicians invited," because I wanted to be just my friends and people who are not in politics and my family. That was it. That was the first time I think in history someone had a party and not invite any politicians to give them certificates and scrolls. I mean, come on, I do nothing with that when I get it. So I just had my family and friends and who are non-politicians. But I have to say I couldn't really make any speeches because I was just so disappointed and torn up that my mom wasn't there to celebrate that, because without her, uh, this sickly little boy would have never grown up to be the man that he is today. And my dad is 100 years old, so he got to see it. So I just wanted to finish the book before anything happens to him. So he
Yeah.
was able to see the book too.
Oh, fantastic. What did he have to say to you when he found out that his boy was going to be the mayor?
He just shook his head and said, "I have found my gold mountain." We all have. We all have. And this is the greatest country. He said, if someone would have told me that my youngest boy, would have been the mayor of a city, I would say you're dreaming and you're joking. We're just happy that he was an engineer. But now to be a mayor of an American city, a city in America, and to be a best-selling author, yeah, he brings pride to our family, and these are legacy achievements. And God, we have found a gold mountain.
Ah, it's fantastic. Yeah, I can only imagine how special that night was for you when you found out you won.
Yeah, he they never doubted me, but honestly, the odds were against me.
Sure.
First Asian American to run, never ran a campaign before, and ran my campaign with only 3 months before election with no endorsements. Yeah, the odds were against me.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, that's an awesome story, and I'm glad it turned out the way it did, and it led you to your book, and now you're sharing the stories of that whole process and the life philosophy that you're living in your book.
Yeah, I would say that philosophy was I think it was always in me. But writing the book, Jerrod, really helped me crystallize my thoughts and thinking, because I've gone on a great podcast like yours. I've been written up, interviewed by, I've gone on radio stations about my book. Major newspapers have written about it. So I really have to crystallize my philosophy and my thoughts. And there's a lot more coming. There's a TV show coming. I spoke at a museum. So it's been pretty wild, I would say, and unexpected, to be honest with you. But just really wanted to inspire and impact as many people as I can. I know there are a lot of little Ed Ings out there who would think that they have no chance or dreams in life, but God, there is. There
Yeah.
are plenty of opportunities out there. Just remember the third door, and I don't give up.
Yeah, fantastic. And yeah, and we're honored to be able to share this story with our community and help you reach that goal. One of the things I also wanted to talk about was sharing your philosophy of embracing your identity, embracing one's identity. Talk to me about your thoughts behind that, and how do we get people to really fall in love with who they are?
Yeah, so number one, I do again, I make it really practical. I really look at, you have to have values, and people judge you by your competence, right? But people respect you by how smart you are, how competent you are, but people really trust you by your character. So if those two things are misaligned, you will never be a leader that you can truly become. So what you gotta know, what you gotta do is determine what your values are. Is integrity important? Is humor important? So for me, it's really about confidence, it's about humor, it's about integrity, it's about putting people first. And those values came through a lifetime of martial arts, of education. I just really know who I am. If you don't know who you are, or people call it identity, if you don't love who you are, you don't know who are you, people will automatically define who you are. And then once people define who you are, you will become a people pleaser. You will act and talk the way people want you to do, want you to talk and act and behave. And that's not what you want. So if you are strong in your identity, then and your character and your competence and everything else is aligned, then it becomes your brand, your reputation. And the rest of the journey is easy, right? You just have to fulfill who you are, uh, have a strong identity, and grow your reputation. So when all those things are aligned, you have a strong brand. That's who you are, your reputation, your identity. So that's kind of what I was referring to. But it really takes time to go through and discover who you are so that you will actually, it will become a natural process. You won't be a people pleaser. You will become a people lover. And that's one element of my values is to
Oh,
put
wow.
people.
Yeah, I like how you said people love are not a pleaser.
Yeah, I think the problem with people with weak identity is they just want to please people. They just want to say, want people to love them. But if you are confident in your values and you're making inspiring people, impacting people, that is going to be your reputation. And you go out there and love people and help people and enable people to become who they want to be and who they can become. And God, that journey it becomes a beautiful journey and opportunities and doors will start opening.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think it starts with exactly what you said. Before I can love you and help you and open doors for you, I got to love myself.
Yeah, you gotta love yourself. You gotta go through it. The practical aspect of it is you really gotta sit down and write down who you want to be. Who are you happy with? Are you happy with yourself? Look at the mirror. Yeah, there are things that we all like to change, but what are the core things, the key things that you're happy with? And do more of it. And you can, I would say a lot of people tell me they're self-made. I'll be the first one to tell you, Jerrod, only successful people will deny that they're self-made. And I have so many people that help me along my journey. So many people inspire me. I would not be where I am today without these people. So, learn to love people.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. And yeah, I think you said something that's really important, and that is knowing what makes you happy, like writing down things and why was I happy or unhappy? Because it's amazing to me if we walk around right now, we go out and just walk the street and we ask how many people tell us what makes you happy, they'll pause and they'll be like, oh, I don't know. But if we say what makes you unhappy, they'll know all the things right at the top of their head, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. So they get stuck at that phase of what makes them unhappy, what makes them unsatisfied, uh, what makes them frustration. They really focus a lot on that and they never focus on what makes them happy. And I think people have to kind of reverse that mindset. To your point earlier, your question, the accidental mindset is really about not dwelling on the past and not what makes you unhappy and shorten that. We're all human, so we're all going to have emotions, but try to shorten that recovery or bounce back period and focus on the lessons learned and continue to march forward and look forward and God, look for opportunities, look for connections, and not just dwell on, a singular event that makes you unhappy and makes you stuck in life.
Yeah, and I think it's a practice that pays dividends both ways, right? If I'm looking for what makes me happy, I will also see opportunities. Whereas if I
Yeah,
see unhappiness, I probably see obstacles.
yeah, I really believe they go hand in hand for sure. Those two things they go in hand in hand. And there's a thing called law of attraction.
Yep.
When you're happy and you're passionate about something, God, somehow you start meeting people who share your passion and introduce you to new opportunities, to people that you would have never otherwise connected with. Yeah, so it's really important. And if you're unhappy, you're gonna attract people who are unhappy, and you're gonna share misery.
Yeah.
So yeah, that is to your point, and that's why I really the name of your podcast. I know this is the second time I said it. Really attracted me, on purpose.
Yeah.
So to me, it's twofold. On purpose is being intentional,
Yep.
but really finding about your purpose, what drives you. So I love it.
I appreciate it. I wanna, before we go, Ed, I want to talk about you recently spoke at the Museum of Tolerance's One Love, One Voice conference. What was that experience like, and what was the message you wanted to share to get us all see we're all humans, we're all in this world together?
Yeah, so the entire the conference theme was one love for one voice, and for one and my interpretation is for one day, don't look at political division, don't look at ethnicity, look at each other as human beings, and connect with each other. Build that culture. We might not agree, but for one day, you know what? Accept each other for the way we are. Don't be judgmental. So to me, that was a theme. And everyone, I think the other workshops and speakers were talking about their research. I didn't go in as a researcher. I went in as a case study. I went in and talked about selected stories from my book that I was not accepted by people, but it wasn't because they were racist or anything. They were just clueless of what I what I was capable of, and that I look a little bit different. And during the gang war, people wanted to just exert their dominance over each other. Do I do I forgive? Have I forgiven them? Of course I have. You know what? They made me stronger. So what I did was I looked at all the different stories, and my message was this: number one, I said you got to have a strong identity. You got to know who you are. All the questions you've asked. That was theme number one. You got to have a strong identity. You got to have core values that define who you are. Who you are. Other people will define who you are for you. And number two is, God, to have know your purpose in life. You know what? A lot of people say, I have these goals that I want to meet. If I don't meet them, I'm a failure. Well, try looking at a purpose, looking at a destination, and looking at your life as a journey, and looking at all the things that opportunities along the way that's going to lead us to connections or opportunities that we would have never encountered otherwise. So the second theme was really discovering your purpose and lead with that purpose, not to discover it, but lead with that purpose. But the third one is finally grow your grit. You know what? People always say, I want to be successful. Yeah, well, successful breeds confidence, but yet failure actually breeds grit. If you don't have grit, what happens when you run into a headwind? What happens if you have massive challenges in front of you? How are you going to overcome that? So you got to grow grit through failure, and then shift your mindset to shorten the bounce back period, to be able to say, you know what, here's a lesson learned from my failure. I'm going to move forward because I know those lessons will come back to help me later on. So that was the theme of my speech, my talk, my keynote speech at the museum. But the bottom line is, you got to be authentic and vulnerable, because if you can't, those stories do not come alive. And I put my heart out there, and I think I broke down a couple of times, had to pause, and but I was able to compose myself. But so I was able to finish it. But to me, uh, when you tell stories, life lessons, experiences, you got to talk from the heart. And I, like for this podcast and all my speeches, I don't prepare. I just speak from my heart. I just want to be authentic, to share my lessons and experiences, and hopefully it will reach some people.
I love it. And that's one of the messages I constantly share with this community is everybody's story has a purpose, if you will, and it has a place. And somebody out there today needs to hear your story, but they can't hear it if you don't tell it, right? And if you don't embrace your story and understand that the struggles and imperfections are exactly the part of the story they need to hear.
Yeah, for sure. It's just, I think I kind of have a concept for my second book, but it's going to be maybe about help write other people's hurts. and vulnerabilities. I haven't really thought it through, but you're absolutely right. Each one of us have a unique journey. Each one of us have a story, and we just got to peel back the layers and really connect with those stories, and those stories out there. You can help so many people with your stories and vulnerability. The story that I told that I was able to help so many people were infertility. I mean, my wife and I were just devastated. I come from a family of 6 siblings, 7 including me. My wife came from a family of 6, and we thought we were gonna have a big family, but we just ran into problems and we just could not conceive. And after doctors, we just couldn't conceive. And eventually, through science, we were able to have our son. But I share that story so many times to people who have given up and tried it, but then they decided to try it again, and they succeeded after that. So I don't know what your hurts are. I just want to tell people out there, I don't know what your hurts are, but share that hurt, share with other people.
Yeah.
We just got to do that. There's a community out there for every hurt possible.
Yeah, I love it. You guys share it and then embrace it and then move forward, right?
Yeah. And you know what? That's why we have one life to live, right? We are here to make an impact in this world.
I love it. Ed, man, it's been an honor to have you on here. I truly enjoyed my time with you. And I know you and I are going to stay in contact, my friend. I can just feel it. But where can our audience go to stay in contact with you, support your mission?
Yeah, so number one, I have a website. It's very easy to remember, www.theaccidentalmayor.com. And all my contact information is out there. I get between 10 and 15 emails a day, and I respond to every one of them personally within 48 hours. I don't pick up my phone because I get too many spam calls, but if you leave a message, I will call you back. And man, I just believe that my book, The Accidental Mayor, has helped a lot of people. I want to continue to hopefully get my book out there to share the message. And it's on Amazon right now, The Accidental Mayor, from the side streets of Chinatown to the main street of City Hall. And there are lessons in there, universal themes that I think can help anybody. So thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
We appreciate you, Ed. You have a great rest of your day, and I can't wait to share your story with our community, my friend.
Yeah, thank you, Jerrod. And when you're out here, let me know. I want to learn some MMA techniques from you.
You might have to teach me something, Ed.
No, you're living my dream. You competed, right, in MMA, so.
And remember, team, life is far too short to live any other way than on purpose. We will see you all again next week.